Yes.
Hi, Billie.
Hi, Val.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I've been waiting for my invitation.
Patiently waiting. Billie has
Patiently
been
waiting.
a big supporter of me starting this podcast. She's been pushing me, gently nudging me for years.
Yep.
It's taken a while. Listen, everything happens right on time.
Exactly.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
So my name is Billie Sell. I am a flight paramedic in Minnesota. That's kind of my background. I've worked my way up, and I am currently the clinical manager of a large program here.
Awesome.
I oversee 7 bases across the state.
That's amazing. How long have you been a paramedic?
It will be 20 years next year. So 19.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
how long did you fly? Were you flight paramedic? I mean, you still pick up shifts, don't you?
I do. Yep. So I still
Yeah.
pick up. I'm not scheduled anything regular. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. But I pick up open shifts or sick calls, or if people need time off to go. Sometimes I pick up so they can go see their kids play a sport, or, just like random at the bases I live close to. I've been a flight paramedic. So I've been flying since 2008.
Okay.
So quite a few years.
Quite a few years for the same program, same
Same
company.
program. Yeah. So I started with a different ground program. And then when I got my paramedic, I have been here ever since.
Wait a minute. Did we start at the same ground
We
program?
did. Yes.
I get that all the time.
I
mean, different locations, but same company.
Different locations, but yes, we did. I worked there as an EMT. I had the best partners, the best mentors. And then, when the opportunity came, I moved over to where I am, and I couldn't be happier.
That's
Obviously, I'm
amazing.
still here many
still
years
here.
later.
And your husband, Chris, he started out as a paramedic. Is that right?
He did.
And
We went to
became a nurse?
paramedic school. So we went to paramedic school. We worked for the same company until I split, which was actually part of the reasons I left. It was better for us as a family, for him to get the position that I was up for, and for me to go to a different company. So for us long-term, it was better. And so that's actually why I left. And then when it came time to have our son in 2011, we just evaluated. And at that time, his company was doing a ton of call. They were short-staffed, and it just really wasn't conducive for us both to be working 24-hour shifts.
Yeah.
And so he actually got a job at the cardiac cath lab. He's a cath lab tech. And so he does that. And he switched, right at the time our son was born in 2011.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm fine. Like all the previous women that I've interviewed for the podcast are all married to men that also have been paramedics or nurses in the same field. I know. I'm kind of like, is this more common than I think it is?
Is it the secret sauce?
Is it? I don't
to
know.
EMS marriages?
Maybe. I mean, I've been married twice, both flight paramedics.
That's true.
Different company. I digress. Okay. And Billie and I, listen, it's a weekend evening, and Billie and I decided that since we're friends, we're going to have a drink together. It's like pandemic days, right? Where people
happy hour
on Zoom. So I've been asking everybody, I think I'm going to continue to always ask this question because it's something that is of interest to me. What has your experience as a woman in EMS been like? So if you've been around for 20 years, like things have changed and come a long way, but yet not so much. So I'd love to hear what your experience has been.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to somebody about, I hate to say like the old days, right? Because it makes me feel old, but I think back to when we first started working, and we would be at the base and the guys would literally be walking around in their underwear. And like, you're like, and I was like a 21-year-old kid. And so like, I didn't know any different. This was just EMS, but now I'm just like, I can't even believe that was allowed to happen. And like, it was just standard. It was just, that was the way we practiced. And we shared a bedroom. We all slept in the same room. And like I said, I was fortunate. I had fantastic mentors, both men and women when I started at the company. And I never felt the people I worked with, I never felt they were never harassing. They were never discrediting. And so I was very fortunate that way. But I think if you look outside the experiences, more of it comes from firefighters. And I hate to say that because I don't want to paint them in the wrong way, but I'll never forget I was on a car accident scene and I was young and I actually was a firefighter at the time. I had got my firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 and on the rescue squad. So it's not like I didn't know what I was talking about, but this car was on its roof and this firefighter was going to cut the B post. That was the only thing holding the car up. And I was like, no, you're not. And he's like, oh, sweetie, you don't know. And I was just like, well, I do know. And so we had a little bit and he ended up not cutting it. We got the patient out, but I just thought to myself, I'm like, you would never say that if a guy paramedic had told you it was unsafe to cut that B post. And so it just, those kinds of little things that you get pushback, I feel like from outside of your partners is where I always felt they were coming from.
That's interesting. Same with, I've heard a lot of people say that too about like when you go to the hospital. I know my experience as a flight paramedic, if I'm working with a guy, they will automatically assume that I'm the nurse and that he's the paramedic and that they will always go directly to him, even if they're brand new. And I'm like, hi, I've been here for 22 years. This guy's been here literally a month.
Right.
What are we? Who are you talking to? I'm holding the notepad. Dead giveaway.
Right. I'm the one. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? When you do work a male female crew, they always assume that the female is the nurse.
Always.
I
mean, and depends on the situation. I'll sometimes say, nope, I'm the paramedic.
Yep. And I'm proud to be a paramedic, so it's fine.
I am also.
But yeah, so I always felt like, I just had really good partners, but it always came from outside just a little bit. And I don't know that they did it on purpose that I can say, but I felt like it was, looking back, especially, you're like, why would you say something like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Or why would you walk around the base in your underpants? Weird.
Could you imagine that today?
No, but I'm certain it still happens. Some of the probably smaller town places.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think of even sharing bedrooms.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We had like 7 beds in each bedroom at the base that I started at.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think even firehouses are moving away from that.
Well, they should be.
Well,
I mean,
but even they're
their
moving
CAMS
away.
or CAS accredited. They have to have 1 bedroom per person with a locking door. Isn't that the new guideline that
I think so, yeah.
putting out there? I don't know. I'm not a CAMS expert. We are CAMS accredited, but I don't study the manual.
You do have to have, and you have to have appropriate sized beds.
Oh,
whatever that means.
Whatever that means. I'd prefer a California king, please.
Right.
So were there other women? Were there a lot of women that were working when you first started out?
There was not. No, when I first started, it was mostly a male base. I had 2 primarily. I'm trying to think of them all back then. Yeah, primarily 2.
Yeah.
And again, I was lucky when I started. Those 2 were fantastic, and I never felt competitive against them.
Oh, that's good. That was going to be my next question is like, what was your interaction with the fellow women?
Yep. So no, actually those 2, we were good friends. I was, very fortunate. And then even when I came to the company I'm at now, trying to think again, mostly male dominated. There was not a lot of women at our base. There was not a lot of women in leadership.
Now, did you work ground for the current company that you work for? Oh, you did
for 3 years. And then actually I did both for a couple of years. I worked air and ground.
One of the girls I went to paramedic school with, we'll call her Kathy. Actually, that's her name. Kathy's been working at that company the whole time. And we talk frequently about what an amazing atmosphere it is there on ground right now. And there's a lot of women. And she said, it's not catty at all. She's like, it is the most amazing, supportive, thing. And she's like, that's why I stay. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great place to work. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Not everybody has terrible experiences.
They do not. No, I think, yeah. And the couple of women that I had, again, were very supportive. The men were, I was fortunate, I think, looking at it. Again, you look at leadership, it was very different then. It was very male dominated. You didn't see females, much less female paramedics in it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or much diversity either. I mean, quite honestly,
Right.
I think our industry as a whole lacks diversity.
Yes.
As in not just women, but people of color.
Yes.
So,
yes, it does.
Okay, that's good. Let's see. What was going to be the next? So you have not experienced harassment, discrimination, anything that you can think of. So that's good.
Yeah. Not as a non-leadership paramedic. We can maybe talk about leadership when we get to that.
We will. Yeah. So also you were really into education for a while there, right? And that I remember like when we first started meeting, you were kind of like trying to decide what you were going to do. So talk to us a little bit about what it was like to be an educator and like, how long did you do that? Did you feel like because you were really young and you were doing, were you flying and educating? Were you on ground, or tell us a little bit about that experience?
I was a little bit of both. So I started becoming adjunct faculty where I would come in and just help with skills, test outs, those kinds of things. Became an ACLS PALS instructor to start all of those pieces. And I taught quite a bit for the paramedic program here in town, and I loved it. It's super fun to kind of impart your knowledge and see the passion and excitement that new people have for coming into paramedicine. And then I always kind of felt like I could show them that this isn't just a stepping stone, right? Like you can be in this in a career. And I loved that aspect of it. And so I taught I still do some teaching. I still like it. I still have a passion for it. And they came to a point that I was thinking that when the director of that program retired, the thought and the plan was that I would take it over. And kind of build it and continue to push it forward. Well, when that time came, the position I'm in now also came. And so it really kind of came down to, where do I go? What are my goals? And what are my ambitions? And they both had really big positives, right? Changing the future of EMS education, possibly, and growing paramedics and keeping them excited. But at the same time, I love my program and the company I work for, and the opportunity to kind of build and expand the program and take it into the direction that I really thought that it deserved and that it could go. There was never been a female paramedic leader in the division that I'm at. And so I was the first for that, and then the first for a female paramedic manager. And so just kind of the excitement of that and the doors that opened for me was really kind of the deciding factor. And somebody said to me to picture myself 10 years down the road, and which job would I be excited or sad to take? And so I thought about it, and not taking the leadership spot would have made me sad to not do. I really feel like women in leadership is important. And it also shows for paramedics, I'm still doing it. I still teach. I still have that capability. But again, you get to show that this isn't a stepping stone. You can be in this career with growth opportunity for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I have talked about this many times as being a career paramedic and it not being a stepping stone to something else. You and I have probably been asked, 20,000 times, when are you going to nursing school? No diss on my nurses, but it's never.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in being a nurse. I like being a paramedic. This actually works good for me, for my personality, for my family. I think a lot of people think because of the weird hours that we work, that we can't raise a family and be working moms. And I would say the exact opposite is true.
I would too.
In the beginning? Yeah, but
being a mom in the beginning, it's hard no matter where you are.
Right. It would be hard if you're a stay-at-home mom.
Right. I would 100% agree. This job and the schedule, it's set. It makes it I thought it was easier. We've had a couple of females that have left after having their first baby, and I just want to go to them and be like, I promise, like, it'll be okay to be away for 24 hours because we do 24-hour shifts. Like, I promise it'll be okay, and your baby will be okay, and dad will be okay, and they'll all do it. And it's really, really great. It's almost like a nice little break. And I say it made my husband a better dad.
Yeah.
Because he had to figure it out.
Them into it. Yeah.
Right. He had to figure it out. Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty amazing. Like, I would say for me, noticing leadership, I've been with the same company, 26, 27 years, and there's been very few female leaders. There's quite a few now that are in that kind of middle management area, and just one in the high management, high upper levels. But in my younger days, I mean, it was like, there were no women there. I mean,
interesting. We had not even nurses
at that table. No, they were all men.
Interesting.
I know. So it's a pretty big deal for you in the size company that you work for, similar size to the company I work for, to have a female paramedic be in that high leadership position is kind of a big deal. I like to brag to everybody that I know you, because I think it's so awesome. And I think it's a great thing for other women in our industry to see, like, look, she can do it. So can you. You're just as qualified as anybody else. Like, you don't, and you shouldn't have to be a nurse in order to be in upper management within air or ground operations, in my opinion.
Agree. In my opinion as well. And I think, we've proven it.
Yeah. So what has that transition been like? I think everybody is like, I want to be in leadership. And then they get there and they're like, what the fuck actually just happened to me?
That's well, you have your moments. Don't, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are moments that you're like, oh, it'd be a lot easier just to fly. But everybody's like, well, how do you do it? I'm like, that's kind of the fun, right? I don't know. For me, it's the challenge of that. Like, how do you keep a positive team? How do you keep driving it forward? How do you not stay stale? How do you stay relevant? And those are the exciting parts of it. And then as well as like advancing like the clinical care practices and elevating your people and sending other people to leadership training, even though they may not be in that role, but how do you mentor them to be leaders at the bases? And I always say, you don't go into leadership because you hate your job. You go into it because you love your job.
It's a good little nugget right there.
Yep. And you want to make it better. So you don't go into leadership because you're tired of being on the streets.
You don't go in because you think it's going to be easier.
That's a terrible reason. And you will hate it every day if that's your only reason for going into leadership. Because
I think sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, because it's hard work.
It's hard work. And how do you, how do you manage your time? Because you have that new responsibility. You've got meetings and emails and Teams. I don't know if you guys use Microsoft Teams, but I mean, like, there's all of that stuff. So how do you, as a manager, leader, how do you like keep involved with the crews and not just get so inundated by the minutia of the leadership role? See what I'm saying there?
I absolutely do. Because it's super easy to get pulled in because your days are busy and there's tons of meetings. I have a couple rules. Unless I'm literally in with like the VP of the company, if a team member calls me during the day, I answer it. Whatever they need, probably, and if I can't, I will send a message immediately, like, I will call you as soon as possible, because they should be able to reach out to me. Like, they don't just call me to chat in the middle of the day. They need something. Something's wrong.
Something is wrong.
So I answer their phone calls and get back to them with follow-up in a timely manner. I'm a huge fan of block scheduling. Took me some time to get here. It's a learned process, but it really makes a difference when you just set out, these are my times to do this. I make visits to the bases as often as I can. So if I'm out and about, just making sure that we have time to stop in. 99% of the time, they'll get a call. It's just the nature of the beast.
No. Are you showing up with a clipboard and are like, that is dirty.
I am
That is
not.
dirty.
No, I
Please
don't.
send
That's
nasty
not.
emails. Don't do
No,
that, right?
no, that's not our job.
Right.
So
No.
no, I just want to come, and I like to bring ice cream. People like food.
Yes, they do.
But and it's just sitting down and talking with them, right? That we block out. There's no meetings, there's no time. It's just to see how the family is, how things are going. What is it that they need, especially if it's like a big project that they need or little base things that they need that would make their life easier. Sometimes it's just nice to see them in person.
Yeah.
We do have, I have a 30-minute window blocked with every single one of my team members on an every other month basis. That's just a dedicated time for them. Sometimes they take advantage of it, sometimes they don't. But being so remote and across the whole state of Minnesota, I can't possibly see everybody in person. It just isn't possible. So they have that window. And that's really, I think, the best way to stay in touch. I make myself present when we do education. That's mandatory. Be up there as much as I possibly can. And
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So you know what's going on.
So I know what's going on. I do all the same education. I think sometimes leaders, or maybe they do and we just don't know it, but I feel like sometimes they skip out on education. But I do all the same assignments, all the same education, keep all the same certifications. So
how have you been able to manage? Now, sounds like you're one of the good ones, as we have a mutual friend that says, Billie, she's one of the good ones. How do you stay, what's the word I'm looking for? Less manager. No, that's not the right word I'm looking for. I can't quite think of it.
You're not going to say bossy.
Well, listen, we're paramedics. We're bossy by nature. I don't know. I think that's a good quality. I don't know why people think it's a bad thing. I'm like, delegation is great.
Yes.
How have you been received as transitioning from somebody that worked in the company? Now you're the manager. You're probably friends with people. Is there awkwardness? Have you had to say or have difficult conversations, which we could even actually talk about, like how, if you could give a tip to somebody like to have a difficult or challenging conversation with somebody, like what would that be? But like first talk about how the transition was from an interpersonal relationship with your crew members. I'd be curious about that.
Yeah, it's actually really hard and quite emotional, to be honest with you, because you have really good friends when you're flying and they tell you all about their families and they, and then when you move into leadership, it just becomes very different. And at first that's really, really hard to kind of be like, well, how come I didn't get invited? Because you don't. They say leadership is lonely. It can be. You have to find other leaders, I believe. And so it is it's very different to kind of move from that peer role into a leadership role. Thankfully, the people at my bases the bases that I worked out of, were super supportive and very excited to have me up there because I think they trusted me. They knew my goals, they knew my ambitions, and they, kind of respected. Our friendships changed, but they have always been supportive. Some of them that didn't know me quite as well. That's the part that I've had a little bit more of a struggle. And I think it's just them accepting me. Sure. They don't necessarily know who I am or like how I communicate or that kind of thing. And so that part has been harder for them to accept me as a leader. Sure. Especially among females.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So that's where we talk about, is there cattiness amongst females? And I don't want to call it cattiness. I think it's that they don't know me. Yeah. And I think that, I'll hear sometimes she doesn't smile enough. And I'm always like, would you say that to a man that was on the meeting, that he didn't smile enough? Like, you wouldn't hear that. And so that part, or her email was too direct, I think it's mean. And I'm like, well, I don't know how else to communicate. Right. This is just kind of who I am and how I communicate. And so I think those people that don't know me, sure, they take it the wrong way. I'm always fascinated that it always comes from women and not from men.
Right.
that say those things.
Yeah. I wonder, the whole smiling thing really gets me. I mean, if we can say nothing, I mean, I can say positive things about the COVID-19 pandemic, but being able to wear a mask and like have that, like, you can't tell if I'm not smiling or
Yeah.
smiling. I mean, we do smile with our eyes, but I just really, I really hate being told to smile. It's like, I don't want to. Please, do you tell that to any men? Has
I don't ever
anybody
hear
ever
men to
said that?
smile more.
Ridiculous.
Ever. They would
It's
just would never say that.
Right. It's like,
I don't
why do you want
understand
me
it.
to be happy? I'm not happy. We're talking about a difficult situation here. I'm not going to be like, this is amazing.
And smiley face.
Right.
No, I know. Yeah.
Oh,
So it's been like that part I think's been interesting. And like I said, and just the change in friendships
yeah.
is a challenge. I mean, you're able to maintain some. You do have to have boundaries. Like there's only certain things that you can share or
Right.
not share. And the true friends, they understand that,
Yeah.
right? They know that there's only so much that I can say about
Right.
situations, but they've stuck with me anyways.
Right. And it's like,
Mhm.
also, I mean, the employees, they don't need to know all of that stuff. I had a coworker that was always like, I want to know this, that, and the other about what's going on. I'm like, why? You have enough that you need to be knowing about. Let them worry and deal with that. I don't care. I don't know why everybody wants all this information, because then it lives in you and then you got to think
That's our
about it.
job to worry. Like I always say, like that's my job to worry about it. It's not your job
Right?
to worry about it. It's my
Not
job.
your job. Let
Yeah.
me carry that backpack around with information. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You have other things you need to be worrying about, you know?
Yeah.
You're out there doing that stuff. Worry about that.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you muted.
I should be unmuted.
Oh, there you go.
I coughed. Sorry.
Okay, good. You know, it is interesting to think about the women thing. This is part of the reason why I wanted to create the All EMS Women group, right? Is because I did not have a positive female group interaction when I started out as a paramedic, and I had no support. And I thought it would be great to have support from another female to be like, oh, are you experiencing this, like all of these things, like, and so that's why I wanted to create the group. And I also wanted us to be like, listen, it's so much better when we support each other, when we're friends, when we can trust each other. And I think we're stronger as a, I don't want to say minority. We make up 32.1% of EMS, women do. So not super minority.
And
growing for sure. I'd be curious what it is in HEMS. You know what I mean? Like,
I bet it's more.
I bet it's more too. I don't know.
Because you're bringing the nurses in.
I know, right?
Yeah. And
And
I think that's a female dominated industry. Again,
Yeah.
changing, more and more
Yeah.
men are
Oh,
coming
yeah.
into it for sure, but it's still a female dominated industry. And then EMS is a male dominated. And so yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what it would be for HEMS.
I wonder. I know. I
Probably
wish
exists
that
somewhere.
you would think maybe the FPC or the ICAPP. Terrible naming for that certification. But like, what is it about women? Like, why do we want to tear each other down? Why are we competitive? Why do we think that we need to be, taking
It's in
everything?
our biology. Did you know that?
That is my assumption.
I'm listening to it. I'm listening to a women's leadership book.
Okay.
And it's talking about just how the communication, men and how women communicate differently, how they're perceived differently, how you can be accepted kind of in the leadership. And it comes down to literally our biology, because women competed for the best and strongest men. And so when another woman was seen as, powerful or more attractive or stronger in certain aspects, you're like wired to want to tear them down to show that you're the dominant one so that the men would want you.
Right. I knew it. That was my last interview. We talked about it. I'm like, I kind of think it's like, back in the day of the caveman.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to be competitive. That's interesting that that's really what it is. I was just making
no, we're just wired that way. We want more nurturing. I think that's the other part. I think that's the part that I might struggle with. I'm not a super nurturing
Oh, sure. Like that
person.
feminine quality, like
Yep.
feminine and masculine. That's what Alex Jobber and I were talking about. I was saying male and female, and I was like, I need to like not say that. It's masculine and feminine. And I think as female paramedics, we have a lot of masculine dominating traits to us. I think that that's what makes us good at the job and be able to stay.
Yep.
Maybe like, I mean, I definitely have a definite feminine side, but yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so that, they like more nurturing, more warm.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, I don't know that they necessarily know that they want that or know that that's why they feel that way.
Right.
But yeah, we're wired that way.
I suppose if you know, like if you identify that that's a weakness that you have, like then that's something that you can pay attention to. Have you ever heard of Strengths Finder? Have you heard of that?
Oh, yes.
I mean, I think every employee should do it, would be my guess. As a manager, I'd want to know those things about my staff. I'm just saying. I know the strengths about my supervisors,
right? I know them. So I have 4 supervisors that report to me. I know their strengths and their personality. And I try to tailor projects to what their strengths are and what they like. I don't know all of the team members, what they like, but I do know the 4 that report directly to me.
And maybe they should know. That should be their project.
And what color they are. We have personality colors.
Oh,
yes.
I love that.
I'm red.
You should write a book.
Just in case you didn't know.
You're what?
Red.
Oh, that was going to be my guess. I was going to say red or orange. It sounds like you should write a book or do a lot more speaking on being a female leader in our industry. Just saying. Maybe. You have some good tips. Some good things.
Thanks.
Yeah. How has it been like dealing with the organization since they've never had a female paramedic leader? How have they accepted you or welcomed you?
Actually, the other like managers of the ambulance division have been great. And I think it helps that they knew me before.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So like I was a part of like the field training officer group and I knew that leadership was something that I had wanted to do. And so I had put myself in many positions to be involved in things that would allow me to grow into this. And so I think they knew me and knew my strengths, kind of knew of me. There's been a few projects that we've had kind of along the way where sometimes I'll get a little bit of pushback. But I think once you talk over. But I think once they hear me out, they tend to step back. And I hate step back. They don't like step back, but they allow me to take the lead as it was set out to be.
Well, that's good. I mean, that reflects good on them and their ability to be like, maybe she's right.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. These are challenging words for many of us to say, like, it's possible I'm wrong.
Yes.
I mean,
nobody likes to say those words.
No, nobody does like to say those words.
But yeah, I can say that we've been great. And so my director is fantastic and super supportive. He's a male. He's a nurse paramedic. He's got dual, but he's been super supportive in me taking on projects and backing me when people may say she's too direct or she doesn't smile. So he's been very supportive. And then same with my VP. He's been super easy to go to ask questions. It's given some directions. We talk about difficult conversations on how to have them. And I've had really, really good male mentors above me.
That's amazing. That's really good. I mean, it's like, if people are saying like, she's too direct, she doesn't smile. It's like, okay, so what do you want? Do you want me to be crying? Do you want me to be so soft that everybody is just like taking advantage of me or whatever? It's like, what do you want?
What do you want? I heard somebody say to use more emojis. That was a feedback.
Like,
and my
face is not frozen. I'm just shocked, like emojis.
But I'm
I
like,
thought-
but everything you read about like professional communication is be direct, say what you mean what you say, and don't use emojis.
do not use emojis. No. As a matter of fact, I think I got an emoji once from maybe pretty high up person. I was like, ew, don't send me an emoji. God, no, that's what we
No.
send each other.
Yeah. And I think it depends on like what the message is too, right? So like the one that I came back was like, we had to have a really important conversation. And so that was the message. Like, I have a meeting blocked. We have to have this conversation. That there's no place for emojis in something like that. But like, if I want to say, hey,
exploding one.
thank you so much for picking up that shift. I'm going to probably give you a smiley face. That feels appropriate, right? I really appreciate. So it, like, I think that there's a time and place for some of those fun things, but you're right. It probably feels weird coming from your boss, some of the emojis, because you're like, I don't know. It's not
because there's possibly a generational difference in some of the meanings of emojis.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like, it's possible that some emojis mean other things. And if they're older, and listen, I'm 50, so I get that, but like, we should not be using those.
Yeah.
And
Smiley
never
face.
kissy
That's
face.
my go-to. Smile.
Smiley
I
face.
smile. Yes. Thank you.
My favorite emoji is the smiley face with a cowboy hat on. I don't know why, because I live in Wisconsin. I don't wear cowboy hats, but I think it's funny. I think it's funny.
Yeah. Mine is just the smiley face.
Another thing I think you and I have talked about, and, you know, as we age in this field and as you are in a manager position and leadership position a lot longer, culture is always a buzzword, especially in HEMS. I mean, I think it is in all EMS. I shouldn't even say that, but like
it's everywhere.
The culture,
all organizations, the culture.
I will just ask you, how do you think, do you think culture is different? Do you perceive it differently now because you're in a leadership position versus when you were just, you know, flying full time?
I think I perceive culture different because I've done a lot of research on culture. Right. And culture is a buzzword. Yes. It's a buzzword for everything. Right. And so I think people throw culture around without fully understanding what it means.
Sure.
And so there's multiple levels of culture, right? So there's your identity culture. And so those are the things like your logo and your uniforms and your helicopter, and you become attached to them, right? Because you feel like they're a part of your identity. But they're not, right? They're just symbols. And so, but we like our symbols and they make us feel good. And if it's something that we've had for a really long time, that change is really hard. And then of course there's safety culture, which I think is a whole other topic in itself. But when you talk about a safety culture, a lot of people like to say the three to say no, 3 to go, 1 to say no. That's again, a buzz phrase.
I do not approve. I do not like, I will go head to head with anybody who wants to have the conversation with me about it.
And then people talk about the history, right? And who you used to be, who the organization used to be. And they kind of get stuck in that past. But I think that the way that I kind of view culture is, how did the team members work together? How do they feel about coming to the workplace? How do they feel about the company they work for? Are they proud to be there? Are they embarrassed to be there? Are they happy? Joy? Do they have joy at the base? I kind of like the word joy as opposed to happy, because you're just not happy every day. We work in a sad industry, right? Bad things happen. But you have joy when you're there and with your partners and the things that you do. And I think the misconception is that culture comes from the leadership. And I think it does a little bit, as in holding people accountable and setting rules and policies and offering support and that kind of stuff. But the culture really comes from each other. How do you treat each other? How are you showing up to work? Are you your best self for your patient and your partners when you show up to work? And I think that's where the culture is built. Leadership should give you the tools to do it, but we can't make you show up to work joyful or show up to work being respectful or ready for, we just can't. That's a personal choice that you have to make.
Right. 100%. I mean, the culture, the company, it's just like with all the things, the company has a small part in it, but we are individual, free-willed human beings.
Yes.
How we show up and present ourselves is what will build the culture.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to be like, listen, the culture is shit here. Our managers are shit, because then they get to blame it, right? They get to be the victim.
Yep.
And then the villain is the company, is the organization. They don't have to take any responsibility. They don't have to change anything. They don't have to take any ownership. It's just easier to live that way. But you have
Right.
no power in that.
Right.
None.
You're just
So-
showing up for this terrible place.
Right. So
And then why? Why would you do that to yourself?
Because you're doing us all a favor? Are you doing everybody a favor? If you hate being here, if you don't like your patients, listen, there's maybe other things that are going on in your personal life, in your home life, but like, the only thing we can change in this world, and everybody wants to change culture, and we'll talk about that in a second, but the first step, in my opinion, would be to change culture is to change yourself. If you think there's some things that are wrong, we only can control one thing in this entire world, and that is ourselves.
Yep.
And when we think that we can change, we have the power to change a humongous enterprise. We don't. We can change how we think about it, how we feel, how we show up, or we can change jobs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I can say that because I'm not a manager, and I know that people get real bent when they hear managers say stuff like that, but I mean, it's the truth. You've got options. There's lots of places you can go work.
There's lots of places. Right. And that's a hard thing to say, because it's like, I don't want anybody to leave.
No.
I truly believe I have fantastic people that work for me. They're smart, they're compassionate. But if you don't like it here, or anywhere that you're working, you don't like coming to work, you don't like the things that are happening, there are lots of places to work.
Yeah.
You should go where you're happy.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really about, is you should be somewhere that you like coming to work, that you find joy in the things that you do, and that you feel like you're coming to work for a purpose.
Right. Yeah.
And wherever that might be, like I said, I hope all my team members think that where they're at is that position, but if they didn't, I would understand.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do you think, I'm sure people in your company talk about it. Like,
Mhm.
how do we change the culture? And what do you say to them?
So I ask them, what are they doing? Well, what are you doing to impart that wisdom upon new people? Or how are you showing up to work? Are you excited to be at work? And negativity loves negativity, right? It's natural. Again, our biology likes negativity. We like gossip. It makes us feel good. And so we get sucked into it, and it's easy, and that's normal. But are you doing anything to stop that at the base level?
Right. We tout ourselves in the HEMS industry as being very intelligent, right?
Yeah.
We are so smart. We are the best of the best. And I do not think that about myself at all. I think I'm just a human being. But it's if you're so smart, and if you're so great, why don't you see that you have to do some things for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If we can't talk about these things, if we can't have, conversations, if we can't change ourselves, if we can't impart our own wisdom to make change in things, then what are you doing?
Yeah. But that's one of my favorite questions, is okay, well, what do you suggest? Like,
right.
what do you suggest? What steps do you want us to take? What would you like to see? What would you like to see it be? Like, what differences, what changes would you like? And those are really hard questions when you haven't really thought about it. When you just want to blame those above you,
Right.
or the system is at fault here.
We hear that a lot.
The nice thing is, again, so we've had some of these conversations and we've had some recently, and a lot of times they've come back a couple days later and wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And which is good. I love when people are able to kind of step back and think about, what am I doing? Or, oh, this is a thing that I'd like to see changed. You know what? I do have an example now. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. So then you're able, there are things, it's like, sometimes you don't know things are happening or being said, and they have to be told in order for things to get changed.
And I mean, that's a lot of pressure on leadership or managers to come up and solve all problems within the company, right? Like, we all have so much value to give, and it might not just be patient care. And like, who better to get ideas and things of change if you want them, if they're reasonable. Like, we can't be like, listen, I need an hour lunch every day at noon. I'm sorry, you work in EMS? What? Like that,
Right.
You have to manage your time. And, that's a rabbit hole we're not going to go down, but like, there are reasonable things that we can ask for or come up with ideas. And I would think nothing would feel better from being, somebody like you, to have a team member be like, yeah, I thought about it. And I think like these two things, they seem like they're reasonable. We could do it. And you'd be like, I never would have come up with that.
Yep.
I don't think like you do. And that's amazing. Thank you. And then people have a little bit of ownership in it, right? And so then they feel good about it and they talk good about it. And that can spark this culture change.
Yeah.
Everybody so desperately wants, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I love when people come up with ideas or solutions or anything. I mean, it's awesome. Right? And sometimes it's like, I didn't even know that was a problem, but let's fix it.
Let's fix it. Let's do
fix it. I didn't even know that was a thing.
You're supposed to tell me these things.
Right. Yeah. No, it's fantastic when people have solutions or true like concerns.
Yeah.
Because like that, the culture here sucks. It's such a big umbrella, right? And you're like, what? You have to fix so many little things if the culture really is bad, that you can't just fix culture. You have to fix communication, and you have to fix safety. And there's so many things that you'd have to go through.
There's so many things. I think that, I think employees, it's interesting what you say about the past. I don't know why we're so attached to the past, right? It's like we're in medicine.
Yeah.
The past is like ancient history. Like literally, why are we thinking about it at all? We should always be going forward because things evolve, things change. When we know more, we do more. When we know better, we do better. Like, stop getting hung up on the past in the way that it was. If you're sitting there living there, then you're not in the current moment that you're in. And that's really the only moment we can change.
Right. It's right now. It is interesting. I've been trying to figure that out, is why do we have rose-colored glasses for the past?
Right. I think because it seems familiar and our brain kind of likes the familiarity of it, even though if you were to just sit down and like rationally think about it, it's like, wait a minute. We were giving low pressure to STEMI patients? What? Why would we do that?
We were doing no CPR for like minutes so we could shock forever.
We put our hand under their neck and lifted it up, like neck lift. Like, that was a terrible idea. Wow. Seat collars on people. No, we put seat collars on people, but you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's so interesting that we get so attached. We romanticize it like it's better there. And I my belief is that the future is always better than the past.
Yeah.
Because I have control over the future. I don't have control over the past.
Yeah. It's done.
It's over.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, it's not super good for some people probably to be living in the future either, because we kind of make it like this weird fantasy land.
Right.
And like think all these things are going to be there and we spend time thinking about there. It's like, no, be here now.
Right.
Be here.
Yeah. Enjoying right now. Because, well, as we all know, tomorrow's not promised. So to worry about the future and all the things and the changes that might come,
right?
Like, let's not worry about that. Let's just worry about right now.
We'll worry about it when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll be prepared.
Yes.
Who better than me? I don't know. Okay.
We'll worry about it when we get there.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Billie's
It'll be
favorite.
fine. That is my favorite.
We're going to have so much fun. That's my favorite quote. Okay. Let's shift away from work for a moment.
Yeah.
How do you take exceptional care of yourself? I don't like to say self-care because I think when we say self-care, people are like, well, I get manis and pedis and massages. And I think that's malarkey. And I don't think that that's really taking care of yourself. It's nice, but like, what are you doing for you, your mind, body, soul, your mental, emotional, physical well-being? Like, what do you do? Because I'm sure your life, your hours are a little bit different now than they were when you were working. I almost said work in the streets, which could come across in a bad way.
Except for people listening to this podcast probably understand what work in the streets mean.
Billie's working the streets. You were flying when you were working on the ground. Like,
yeah,
your hours are different. Your life is a little bit different, except for when you pick up shifts,
Yeah. Which then throws me all off.
Yeah, I bet it does. So like, what do you do? How do you take care of yourself?
Oh, I have a few things that are kind of non-negotiable.
Oh, I love that word,
if you will.
Non-negotiable.
So I work out every day. That's pretty much it's not always intense, right? So sometimes it's yoga. Sometimes it's Pilates.
Hey now, hey, with the intense yoga.
I know,
weightlifters
is relaxing for me and stretchy.
Right. You're not in the studio doing hot vinyasa flow yoga.
I am not. I do it in front of my fireplace sometimes. It gets toasty warm.
Jealous of that. I want to switch fireplace.
Yeah, it gets toasty warm sometimes.
Okay,
and then I turn it off and cool off.
Cool down.
Yes.
Okay, so
anyway, and I'm a morning person because I know I've learned over the years that if I don't do it in the morning, I just won't do it. Yeah. So whatever time I have to get up to get that in, I take, I don't know, probably 20 minutes before I work out I drink a pre-workout, but that's my time. I usually listen to like a podcast or I listen to a book and it's just quiet in the house. And I sit there. So my husband always makes fun of me because he's like, why don't you just get up and work out? And I'm like, I really like this time. It's like
peaceful,
right? It's so peaceful. And I kind of get myself ready and then I work out. So whatever time I have to get up to accomplish that, I do. On shift days, it's not uncommon for that to be 3:00 in the morning. But along with that, my other non-negotiable is sleep. I like my sleep. I have grown over time, right? I don't think you realize how important it is in your 20s, but I like my sleep. I need 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, and whatever I got to do to get it, I will do to get it. Again, I don't want to make it sound like when I'm working, I call out of service to get my 8 hours of sleep, right? Those are outside things. And when you're working, and I try to go to bed at a decent time to get myself up, to get to work and to get rested when I have to be there. Or if I have to travel, if I'm going to a base that's farther away or the metro, for meetings, I figure out how to get to bed at a decent time because that's important for me. As much as sometimes I think my team doesn't realize it because they do ask me why I work all the time. I actually do take time off. I tend to take the evenings. I don't, and I spend that time with my family.
Yeah.
The nice thing is again, my boss is super understanding and my hours are very flexible as long as I get my work done. So
Right.
I might take an afternoon off because my kid doesn't have school and we'll go spend it together.
Right.
Supper time with him is always, like our time. There's no phones and you have to shut it off. Otherwise you'll work all day, every day. And so I have
Right.
windows of time that when I'm with my family, those are off times and I don't respond. And
Yeah, creating boundaries, right? Boundaries are things that we put up to protect ourselves.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of people in our industry need to learn how to put boundaries up. So
and to be
that
honest, as a leader, boundaries are hard
I
because
can't imagine.
you don't want people to feel like they can't. And this is a 24/7 industry.
Right.
And I remind myself, like, Sunday might be the only day they're working that week.
Right.
And for me to expect them to not contact me on a Sunday is unrealistic, right? Like that's the only day they're working. They need to, so I'm available more than I think is probably good. I'm not going to lie. But I do have sometimes, like when I'm on vacation, I really don't respond much. We make it pretty clear. And I set that same for all my supervisors. We have group text messages. And when somebody's on vacation, they get removed from the group.
Ooh, that's a smart idea.
So that they're not bothered. And and I can, when I'm off, they take care of everything for me. I have a great team.
That's really good awareness though, from a manager perspective or any of your leaders, to really recognize that, like, if an employee contacts you on Sunday, that you have to know that they will not be working again until probably Wednesday,
right?
Tuesday. I mean,
depending on their rotation.
Exactly. And so it's like, yeah, I might want to get back to them. And listen, I can say from a frontline team member perspective, like when I am working a weekend and I send an email to somebody that's above a frontline team member, I don't expect them to get back to me. Is it nice when they do? It's like, yeah, because I'm not going to be here again till Thursday. I mean, nothing is probably that important. I mean, we've got managers on call and POCs and all these other people that if I've got something, I can talk to them. But, sometimes it is frustrating. Like when things come up and you're like, I will not be here for 3 days. Please do not assign me education and expect me to get it done.
Right. Because they might not be right. Like, and we have not very many, but we have a handful of team members that only work weekends.
Oh,
so it's like, well, when else would they talk to me?
Right.
Like, I have to be available. When else would they get a hold of me? So I think that there has to be some of that availability.
Yeah.
For those.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. So boundaries are a little bit different. They're a little more flexible. Like when you're with your family, this idea of work-life balance, I call bullshit on.
Me too.
Complete and utter bullshit. Listen, you do not want your work life and your personal life to be balanced.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't exist.
It does not exist. And when we think it should, we feel cognitive dissonance and we feel like we're doing something wrong and we're unhappy about it. And that's not helpful. It's like you have work stuff. So when you are sitting at dinner with your family, you're like, phone is off. It's over there. That is my boundary. I am not answering calls. I'm not checking my email. I'm not planning meetings. We're eating.
Yep.
And when you go to bed, I mean, like having a boundary for your sleep. Like if I could teach anything to brand new EMTs and paramedics, it would be that you must learn how to sleep immediately. Like it's so important. It affects every single cell and aspect of our body. It can actually change us. They have to sleep. We have to sleep.
You have to sleep. I love sleep.
So do I.
Once
I finally figured it out, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Love sleep. Agreed. I would definitely, and it is, I think boundaries are flexible.
Yeah.
But you do have to have some.
Yes, you do.
And let people know, you know what I mean? Like, right. I had a team member, he messaged me at 8:00 with like a question and I almost responded. And I was like, no, that is not an immediate, you know what I mean? Like, but it was there and the next morning they messaged back and they're like, did you get my message? I'm like, I did. It was 8:00 at night and you were on my list to respond to today.
Right. Like, is this important? Yes or no?
Yeah. Again, though, but I think I have more understanding than maybe some people do because they're at work. You know what I mean? Like there's a 24-hour job. And so they don't always maybe like, I know I didn't always realize what time it was when I was at work. It was like, oh shoot, it's 7. I didn't mean, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like you just don't,
Right. Like
you don't have
email.
that same, like you just don't have that same sense because you're like, well, I'm at work.
Right.
You know, and you forget that not everybody is at work.
Everybody's at work. 3 a.m. I'm sending emails. The funny thing, one of our schedulers, she starts at like 4:30 in the morning.
Oh,
so I'll be emailing. I'm like, oh my gosh, she got back to me already. This is fun. I'm like, why do you work so early? She's like, because then I get done early. I get to be with my kids. So I'm like, oh yeah, smart. I like it.
Yeah. I love flexibility in hours like that. Like you work what's best for you, man. Yeah. And if you got to break it up, then you break it up. Like I said, especially when like my kid has events or sporting events, it's like, okay. And I block it off on my schedule. Like I am not available these times.
Right. And listen, those kids grow up so fast. Blink of an eye, they're in high school and then they're driving and then they're in college and then they're married and then they move away. I mean, like so fast. Got to enjoy it now.
Right. You can't get sucked in.
Right.
It's easy.
Okay. So last thing, because we've been talking for a really long time.
It doesn't feel like very long.
I know, right? My cheeks, I'm like, I have rouge on. Okay, it's blush. It's not the wine. So you mentioned like getting away. And of course, I can't not talk about the All EMS Women Retreat.
Yay.
Billie was she came to last year's event. I hope she's coming this year. It's in October in Spooner, Wisconsin. Yes. It's going to be even better this year. But so you came with somebody else that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you let everybody know kind of like what you thought the experience was like? Now, I did get a couple comments from people when I was like posting about it on social media, like, why would I want to go spend time with a bunch of other women? I was like, I don't know, because we're super fun.
Yeah.
Like you have a bad experience with women. Like I think it's amazing. Like I thought that the group of people, like there was a couple of people that came that they didn't know anybody. Like, so talk about what you thought your experience was like, and you can say negative things. I have very thick skin.
I know you do. I wouldn't be afraid. It was amazing. So being surrounded by other women who do what you do and understand what you do it's amazing. Like I have girlfriends who don't do this and they don't get it. They just don't get it. And so it's just not the same. So yes, to spend these days with other women in EMS, to share stories, to share ideas, to share experiences. There was just no pressure to be somebody who you're not.
Right.
I mean, it just wasn't like you had to put on like a fake face or a fake personality. You just got to be who you were, which again isn't common in groups of women. Right. But I never once felt like I had to pretend to be something else at all. Right. It just was so natural, so easy, so relaxing, because there was all these very nice events put on, like painting and scrapbooking and journaling. Oh, I have mine off to the side.
So funny.
And journaling.
Yes, I love journaling.
So wish, but you didn't have to do any of it.
Right.
Like if you didn't want, if you just wanted to sit outside and read a book or go for a walk by yourself or any of those things, then you could. So I will definitely be there again this year. And so will the girl that I came with.
Yes. She's going to be talking about something really cool.
I know.
I'm super excited.
So yes, I will definitely be there again. And I would definitely recommend it to everybody. It was
getting there,
fantastic.
taking a break, like getting away from your own four walls, your own thing. I mean, it's not like we were sitting around like talking about like the worst call we ever had or anything like
No,
that, but
not ever.
like, right. Like it was like, I feel like it's a really good experience to meet other people that you have a commonality with, but are different. And I think it makes us grow as a person when we can be around other women and talk about other things and learn who other people are.
Mhm.
I mean, it just makes you feel good.
Yeah. No, it was good. I've told about there was too much food for me.
Oh my God, me too.
It
It will not be nearly as
was
much
all
food.
delicious.
It was good,
But it was a lot of food. But that would be my only negative was it was a lot of food.
it's a lot of food. This place that we're going this year is completely different. It's in Spooner, so it's a little bit farther north.
Yeah.
And so it's on a lake and it
Nice.
faces south. So we'll be able to see the sunrise and the sunset. It's on an island.
Oh,
It's humongous.
nice.
There's wooded area all over the place. There's like a little gazebo towards the lake that's completely screened in. Great place for us to do some yoga in there.
Yeah.
Maybe some journaling. There's a huge fire pit, lots of chairs, a movie theater. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
I think
Yeah,
there's a sauna in there.
And like you said, I think just to get away from your day to day, like normal stuff. And it's different than a conference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where you go and like you have this talk and this talk and this talk and the networking and the busyness of, and I love conferences, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I love that atmosphere. It's not relaxing.
No,
No, not at
the
all.
brain is working a lot.
A lot. This was just so different, but you're still away and you're still learning because you're learning about people and how they do things and
right. And learning some techniques, like one of the things I was really hoping that I would be able to teach people myself. Of course, it doesn't always work out the way that you plan things, but like meditation really is super helpful for people in our industry for helping us go to sleep, for helping us de-stress after a really challenging situation, learning some breathing techniques. Like that is so important. And I want to teach that to people so bad, but we're going to get it figured out this year. And then I have a couple of other exciting things that are going to be happening. I can't quite talk about them yet, but it's going to be so fun.
It is going to be fun.
I have to invite
and I will be there. It'll be super fun.
Wait. Can't wait. Be like carpool. Anybody want to go to a Spooner?
I know. It's not terrible. I mean, it's a drive, but it's not a terrible drive from where I live.
I know. It could
I'll
be
pick
worse.
Jill up on the way up and we'll head on out.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Now, have we talked about this? What conferences and stuff are you going to in the future? Are you going to any conferences?
I'm going to like all of them.
Are you going to Crash and Learn?
No, that I'm not. Because I know Josh has been trying to get me to go so much. So
is he going?
Yeah.
Is he speaking again?
I don't think so.
Oh,
yeah, I don't think he was.
Did you know that I'm speaking there?
I did. I think, did you tell me?
Did I?
Or did Chris tell me? Somebody told me.
Chris probably told you.
Yeah.
I'm speaking and I'm going to be teaching yoga before the education sessions.
Perfect.
Is that going to be fun?
Are you going to tent or did you get an RV?
I think I'm going to tent. I mean, listen, I can rough it. You and I roughed it in Hayward. That wasn't really roughing it when we went.
That was not roughing it.
That was very fancy Scandinavian camping.
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to CCTMC coming up.
I was trying to go to that, but my company is not currently doing that.
Oh, one of my team members is speaking.
Oh,
so we are going out to support him.
Oh, it looks really good. I really wanted to go this year.
Yep. So I'm doing that one. I'm doing AMTC because we're getting a new helicopter and it will be on the exhibit floor.
Wait a minute. You're getting a new helicopter?
We are 2 of them next month. 135s.
Oh,
yeah.
We're getting
huge
new ones
change.
too.
I know you are. I saw it.
I know. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super excited for it
too.
I'll have had 3 helicopters working for this program. Been in 3 different ones.
Wow.
And I'm not attached to the first one.
You don't love it and
No,
angry that you're not in it anymore?
I am not.
Interesting. This is a big change for us. We're
I
going
can't
from
even
wheels to
imagine.
skids.
Yeah.
Huge change. It's exciting. I mean, it's a huge opportunity, but yeah, so I'm going to AMTC because we'll be in it.
Where
On the
is
exhibit
AMTC
floor.
this year?
Columbus, Ohio.
I knew it. Damn it. I gotta go because
Yes.
my friend
You know
Michaela
all
lives.
kinds of people in Ohio.
I know tons of people in Ohio.
Yes, you should come.
Our dog Ted is from Ohio.
Oh,
Are you gonna speak or are you manning the booth or what?
I will man the booth. And then I will be at EMS World, which is why I'm not doing Crash and Learn. And I'm speaking at EMS World.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What's the topic on?
I'm actually doing point of care testing in the pre-hospital environment. Yeah, I'm doing a clinical talk.
Oh, I like it.
So yeah.
Do you guys do point of care testing? You
We
must
do.
if you're talking about it.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
we do. So yeah, I'm going to talk about that at EMS World. It's a new talk for me. So I'm a little nervous.
Fun.
Yeah.
A little nervous. Well,
It's a big conference.
it is a huge conference.
Yeah.
Huge.
Fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Is it in Georgia? Where is it?
It is in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to New Orleans before?
I have not.
Where are you staying?
I don't know yet. We're like wherever by the conference, I have to make the hotel reservations and stuff. So
Fun.
I just found out like 2 weeks ago
New Orleans is amazing.
that my
wild
speech was
there.
I think it rotates. If I remember, somebody said EMS World like rotates between like Las Vegas, New Orleans, and Orlando.
Oh,
I think it was in Orlando last year.
cool.
Yeah.
Fun.
So I'm doing that. I just couldn't do another one because that's 4 with the EMS retreat.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. So
well,
that's all I could do.
that's all. Okay. Sounds like a lot, actually.
That was it. That was all
like
I
a
could
lot.
do.
Okay. I definitely have got to go to AMTC. You know, I've never been to AMTC.
No,
It's
a fun one.
That's what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hear.
And like I said, I think I love conferences like that. The people and the new people and like learning from other people and just the networking that happens at them is just phenomenal. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I love having new employees. I know that
Yeah.
seems to go against what everybody else thinks and everybody gets kind of bummed about it. You know, we had a little bit of a turnover at our base and people were kind of losing their minds over it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's amazing seeing the excitement in these people's faces. Like when they come to work, I'm like, we do the same job. How come you're so excited and this person is not? We do the same job.
Yep.
I love their excitement. I think it's amazing. And I think that people need to be more excited about having new people and, you know, and listen.
They need to learn from new people too. Like that's the other thing. Like they just went through all of the new stuff. They're fresh. Yeah. Like they don't just have your protocols memorized. Like I love new people. Yes.
I do too.
Agree. Mm-hmm.
My husband and I talk about that a lot. We're like, we really like them. We think that it's good. We like young people. We think that they have a completely different perspective on life and technology and all the things. And I say like, let's embrace it. I don't need to be connected to the past of the things that I did or didn't do or memorize or didn't memorize or whatever. Like, I just think it's so fun. We
can learn a lot from, I feel like this new generation's work life. And I don't want to call it balance, but their perspective.
Yeah. Because it's very different than mine. Very different. Probably yours.
Yep. It's very different. And it's not wrong. It's probably fantastic for them for the long run.
Right.
And they will have a much healthier life balance. I am sure of it. But yeah, they have a very different perspective. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Well, on that, we'll wrap it up. Thank
All
you
right.
so
Yeah.
much for coming and talking with me. It's so fun to see you and to talk with you. I love our conversations. I always feel that they're super insightful, and I think they're great.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy
You're
to be
welcome.
here.
Okay, bye.
Bye.